So the American Gold Eagle is probably the best gold coin that you can buy here in the United States, but if there is a way to screw up an otherwise good decision, I can usually find it. Like buying a quarter-ounce American Gold Eagle and paying 17% premium. Hypothetically. So when it comes time to sell your gold or silver, there are a few things that you're going to want to know. Now, you might be saying, hold on, I don't ever plan to sell any of my gold or silver, and maybe that's even true, but somebody will. You, your family, the pet shelter you leave it to, at some point, somebody is going to sell. So let's make it easier. Let's make it quicker for whoever it is. And the part here is very easy to overlook, is that most of the things that you can do to improve the outcome in a sale actually come from the choices that you make long before it comes to that. So that's what we're going to cover here. And rather than just make this kind of video where I come on and say, buy yourself some American Gold Eagles and call it a day, we're going to look not only at the obvious considerations, but also at some of the inconsistencies. So we'll start at the beginning with some of the considerations that come up in a purchase, but we're going to work our way up to what that means in a sale, because it's a loop. All of the things that would come up in a sale should be considered prior to a purchase. And you add a layer to that, you look at some of the different options for a sale. You can sell to a local coin shop. That's going to be different than selling to a private buyer, which is going to be different than selling to a big online dealer. So there's a little bit to consider here, some of which you just can't control. And that gets me to the last bit of background here. Timing doesn't always work in our favor. Plans can go sideways. So maybe you or your family need to sell your precious metals at an unexpected time, maybe even at a bad time. And that makes this topic and the decisions you make a lot more important, because if you can't control the timing of a sale, you don't know exactly what that sale will look like. Gold might be harder to sell than it is today. It might be considerably more expensive. Maybe it's harder to sell because it's considerably more expensive. All of that is worth taking a look at. So in a purchase, the two biggest things that you have to consider are what to buy and what size. And those are two separate things. I just bought a quarter-ounce American Gold Eagle. And it might not have been the best decision, even though I would say that a 1-ounce Gold Eagle would have been a great choice. I'm going to get to why in a minute. But let's start with the size. So anyone I've talked to at any local coin shop that I know says the most common gold that they deal with, both in the sale and in the purchase, is the 1-ounce gold coin, and by a wide margin. Now this used to surprise me considering the cost of an ounce of gold, but the sales figures from the mints back this up, and so does the general retail inventory that I see just by looking at the dealer's shelves. They say fractional gold goes pretty quickly when they have it, as long as it's well known, but the handful of dealers that I know well don't order any fractional gold at all, at least not for inventory. Any fractional gold on display is a secondhand purchase from a customer. The same goes for gold bars. So this doesn't mean that you should only buy 1-ounce gold coins, it just means that you don't need to be afraid of 1-ounce gold coins, at least in terms of what's going to be easy to sell down the road. The 1-ounce gold coin is what I have the most of for a few reasons. First of all, it's heavily influenced by the premiums of the coins. A 1-ounce coin is obviously cheaper than 10 1/10 ounce coins. And then second of all, it's just what the dealers have always said to focus on. Now the local coin shops though are not the only game in town. So if you want a cash sale and you're looking for a private buyer in your local market, there's a possibility that there's a bigger population of buyers willing to give a private seller $200 or $250, whatever 1/10 ounce coin goes for at the time, then there is willing to give $2,000. So if you ran into an issue selling an ounce of gold, you might have more luck selling that same ounce spread across 2 or 4 or 10 sales. And the chance of that being the case goes up if the price of gold were to spike. So if gold suddenly cost $5,000, maybe it would be easier to unload a 10th ounce coin than it would be to unload a 1-ounce coin. Now all of this is speculation on price, of course. Now, I have never had an issue selling 1-ounce gold coins. And really, if I only went from my personal selling experiences, I would say that it's considerably easier to sell well-known 1-ounce coins than it is to sell small European gold like sovereigns or roosters. But people have pointed out that a stack of fractional gold coins gives you greater flexibility to sell down gold in whatever increment you need. And that makes perfect sense. Maybe you don't want to sell a full ounce. Maybe you just need half that amount. Maybe you just need a tenth that amount. So both those are valid considerations. The possibility of it being easier to sell fractional and the increased flexibility in selling specific amounts. Now, there are considerations that I'm not particularly worried about myself, but I have started to think that I would like to have more fractional gold. Now, it won't be any harder or easier to sell 4 quarter-ounce eagles to a local dealer than it is to sell 1 1-ounce eagle, but it might be in the case of a private sale, especially if the price of gold increases significantly. It might also be easier to spread that out in a gifting situation if you're handing them down to family. So whatever the case, I think it makes sense to have some fractional, and that means that we have to consider the elephant in the room, premiums. So different coins have different premiums. We all know that. We also know that some coins are harder to sell than others. And if we want to add one more moving part, size changes things. So we have different premiums and demand from coin to coin and size to size. The best choice, the best thing for you to buy doesn't always make sense across the size run. So a 1-ounce eagle might make the most sense when you consider all of the factors, but maybe the same isn't true of the quarter-ounce eagle that I just bought. So let's get into price. So one of the best deals you're going to be able to find on fractional is the random government-backed coin. And premiums for random government-backed 1 quarter-ounce gold coins, they start around 6%. That's really good for fractional. I'm pulling that from a price aggregator, by the way. I'm going to use that over and over. I'm not going to name them. You can figure it out. Ask me in the comments if you need. If you could find any quarter-ounce gold coin that you wanted for 6% premium, that would probably be the end of this conversation. These quarter-ounce eagles are nowhere near that. And if we use the same price aggregator, I see premiums for quarter-ounce eagles ranging from 17 to 33%. That's a lot different. And that really makes them a luxury purchase right now. You might be able to find a private buyer willing to give you most of that back in a sale, but it won't be easy, and I wouldn't plan on it personally. Local dealers are going to vary, but it's hard to plan on getting anything more than a few percentage points above spot for them. And I think that most would probably offer spot, maybe slightly above. So if we're buying fractional gold coins, it really needs to be based on significant convenience. And maybe $500 or $600 is a hard budget, and a quarter-ounce coin is the largest form factor in that range. That makes perfect sense. But if you're spending 20 or 30%, maybe even more in premium just to get a smaller coin faster, you should at least weigh that out against waiting, because the larger coin can cost significantly less. A 1-ounce coin might be 5%, might be 6% premium. And at $17.50 for an ounce of gold, if you do some math, you might spend $1837.50 for a 1-ounce coin versus $2,187.50. Don't worry, I mathed this out so you don't have to, but it's a difference of $350. That's comparing a premium of 5% versus 25%. Now there are ways around that crazy delta there, the 5% versus the 25%. Not buying eagles is one way. That random government-backed deal, that's one way to go. The concern is pretty straightforward. If I intended to sell to a local shop, maybe they would decline to buy some of those coins. And if I wanted to sell to private party, then I'd have to list them all out individually. Now, if you remember way back to the beginning of this video, how I started this off, I mentioned wanting to sell quickly and easily, hopefully without losing a significant amount of premium in the deal. So I mentioned government-backed coins and random purchases. I mentioned the eagles. Those are probably two ends of the spectrum. I'd say that the solution might be somewhere in the middle. If I was looking today, I would actually look at Britannias, because a 1 quarter-ounce Britannia or even a Philharmonic can be found for about 8 or 9% pretty easily here in the United States. And there are other options as well, but like I mentioned earlier, buying consistently or buying the same thing over and over and over, that usually makes things easier down the road. And it applies to anything that you might be selling more than one of. It doesn't matter if you're talking about those quarter-ounce coins or you're talking about 10th-ounce, half-ounce, or full-ounce coins. It's just easier to sell 10 of the same thing than it is to sell 10 different things. I have a fair amount of variety, but I try to stack one thing in bulk, and that's eagles for me. Maybe it's buffaloes. Maybe that'll eventually take over. But considering the hike in premiums over the past 2 years, Britannias are actually looking more and more attractive. In the case of the quarter-ounce American Gold Eagle that I just bought, a Britannia probably would have been a much better choice. I wouldn't say the same thing about the 1-ounce versions, but I think it's pretty clear given the absurd premiums on fractional eagles right now. The reason that I grabbed one right now, the quarter ounce eagle, it's pretty simple. I already had 9 of them. Now, one isn't on the desk, but it's around here somewhere, and this last one makes it 10. I mentioned thinking that it would be nice to have more fractional eagles, and I'd like to have a tube of them, but a mint tube fits 40 quarter ounces, and I just don't see that happening. Now, if I do keep going past the 10 for quarter ounce, it's probably smarter for me to switch to Britannias. So you'll hear 2 things pretty commonly. The first is that it just doesn't matter because an increasing spot price will cancel out the sunk cost of the premium in a sale. And then the other thing that you hear is that you get your premium back. Now, the first is really just justification for throwing away money since there were probably cheaper options at the time. And the second, that just assumes that you're selling private party, which is a pain. Now, I think there needs to be a balance, and that balance works out with 1 ounce American Gold Eagles or Buffaloes, or at least I did a month ago, because a 5 to 6% premium at the time of purchase to me is worth the added convenience in a sale if you compare that to the best case low premium of say 3 to 4%. Now, locally, I would get 1 to 2% of that premium difference back from my local dealers, so the spread is about the same as it would be for a Britannia. That does not work out with the quarter ounce eagles or the 10th ounce eagles though. So if I want to work up to 20 of these eagles, I would have to do it knowing that I'm throwing away premium that I won't get back. The starting premium on the quarter ounce eagle, again, 17% versus 9% for Britannia, less for a random. I don't think that the random government quarter ounce coins are worth the loss of convenience in a sale, but the Britannia, the quarter ounce Britannia, that checks all the boxes to me that the eagle or buffalo do at the 1 ounce size. Alright, so we're probably at the point of the video we might be thinking that this seems like over-analysis, like maybe I'm a fun hater and we should all just buy whatever catches our eye or whatever costs the least at the time, but this is driven by the fact that I buy gold because it's useful. And I do have coins that aren't, I probably always will. Coins that I would say are a lot more exciting to me than eagles, buffaloes, or even Britannias, but stacking those last 3, that puts me in a place to be able to sell quickly, easily, and for the best price if or when I ever need to sell or if or when my family needs to sell. So real quick, I didn't talk about selling back to an online dealer, and that's always an option. In the case of having a bunch of random gold, there's an argument that selling to a big dealer might actually be the easiest choice. The downsides are going to be big for some and small for others. Really what you're looking at is that you have to ship your coins and you have to wait for a check or wire. So it's a pain and it's not a casual cash transaction. But if that's not a concern to you, online dealers will buy gold bars, they'll buy old commemoratives, they'll buy roosters. So if the pros there balance out the cons, that's another option for you. Okay, so let's call it good there. Let us know if you have a plan. I just went something like 12 minutes talking about one, knowing full well that when the Perth Mint Lunar Rabbit comes out next month, that will be at the top of my list. So what fun are rules if you can't break them now and then, I guess, right? So let us know what you think, and then while you're in the comments, be sure to hit the like button if you found any of this interesting. Be sure you're subscribed with notifications turned on if you want to see more on the topic. And if you're still here, thanks again for watching. I always appreciate your time. Take care.